Chapter 2. The First Firekeepers. The first spiritual specialists were not priests. They were firekeepers. They did not stand apart from the community to interpret doctrine or enforce law. They stepped into danger, illness, madness, and death on behalf of the tribe, carrying consciousness where others could not safely go and returning with something usable: vision, balance, warning, healing. What later cultures would call shamans were not defined by belief, but by capacity. They could endure pressure. In Zalsarian terms, they were the first humans to learn how to consciously work with pressurization, how to enter intensity without fragmentation, how to allow the seed to be stressed without shattering, how to pass through altered states and return intact. This is why the body, not theology, was their primary instrument. Before philosophy, there was rhythm. Before scripture, there was breath. Before prayer, there was movement. Across early cultures, from the San and Dogon of Africa to Aboriginal Australians to the peoples of the Americas and Siberia, the same technologies appear again and again, not because of shared origin, but because the human nervous system responds to pressure in universal ways. Repetitive drumming, extended fasting, sleep deprivation, psychoactive plants, intense physical exertion, circular dance, controlled hyperventilation. These were not primitive superstitions. They were somatic gateways, methods for shifting awareness out of its ordinary defensive posture and into deeper layers of perception. The body was understood intuitively as a threshold, not a limitation. From a Zalsarian perspective, this marks a crucial evolutionary moment. Humanity discovering that transformation does not occur through thought alone, but through embodied rhythm. Consciousness had to be shaken loose from habit. The seed had to be rattled inside its shell. Dance, in particular, was not performance. It was alignment. When the body moved rhythmically for long enough, something subtle happened. Individual identity loosened, time distorted, pain receded or intensified into ecstasy. The dancer entered a state where effort dissolved and movement seemed to move itself. This was an early encounter with the current, not as concept, but as felt flow. The shaman did not believe the universe was alive. They experienced it that way. In trance, animals spoke. Ancestors appeared. Weather responded. Whether modern language calls these experiences neurological, psychological, or spiritual misses the point. What mattered was their effect. They reorganized meaning, restored coherence, and allowed the community to survive forces that would otherwise overwhelm it. Crucially, the shaman's journey always followed a pattern: departure, disintegration, encounter, return. The shaman left ordinary reality, passed through fear or symbolic death, encountered knowledge or power, and returned bearing something that served the whole. This pattern, later mythologized as the hero's journey, is not literary invention. It is a metabolic sequence of consciousness. Zalsara names this sequence because it recurs everywhere. Pressure breaks the old form. Fire releases what was trapped. Light reorganizes what remains. Yet the firekeepers were never rulers. Their authority was fragile, conditional, and temporary. If a shaman failed, if they could not heal, could not see, could not return, they lost legitimacy. There was no institution to protect them, no doctrine to hide behind. Their power was experiential, not structural. This is why early spiritual life remained fluid. But fluidity cannot scale indefinitely. As tribes became villages and villages became cities, the old ways strained under new pressures. Collective rhythm became harder to maintain. Direct experience became rarer. The shaman's dangerous intimacy with the unseen became unpredictable. even threatening, to emerging social order. Fire, once danced with, began to be contained. Rituals were formalized, movements were codified, stories were fixed. The body slowly gave way to symbol. The living current began to be housed in image and myth. This was not yet loss, but it was the beginning of translation. The age of fire keepers was giving birth to the age of gods, and with that birth came both preservation of wisdom and the long, slow forgetting of how the fire was first carried.